Thank you. I hear you are very well informed. I hope you can hear me okay.
Thank you to you. Thank you.
So yeah, I'm Jan. There's a bit of an echo here. Sorry, yeah, okay, it's better. Let me share my screen. Does it work? So I'm going to, in this talk, I'm going to show you some of the results of the landscape research I've been doing recently around the site of Charax Spasinou in the south of Iraq. This picture here on the screen just gives actually my first impression I got on my first day at Charax. I was taken straight up to the ramparts of the site, and it nicely shows how the huge ramparts of the site and how utterly flat the surroundings are. So let me first start with a brief introduction on Charax, although it's not my expertise history, but just to give you some historical context. Compared to the other talks, I guess we are a bit further south now, and we are dealing with a bit later periods than some of the other sites. Charax Spasinou is the ancient Greek name of Jebel Kayabar in southern Iraq. The name is derived from a former Seleucid governor, Spasinou. However, according to the written sources, the city was originally founded by Alexander the Great as Alexandria on the Tigris, and located at the junction of the Tigris and the Euleios, or present-day Kage rivers. At various times in history, the city was destroyed by floods and then rebuilt. It flourished as the capital of Mesene and became the most important port of the Persian Gulf at some point, serving as an exchange point for the trade between India and Babylonia. Eventually, the city was superseded, first by the nearby Forat and then by Basra as the main center in the region. Charax most probably suffered from changes in a previously favorable position between the Tigris and the Euleios, and hence...
Jan, sorry if I interrupt you. We are seeing not the presentation mode, but the one of the presenters. I do not want if you want to change it. I think from display setting above.
Do you see this second slide? No.
Yes, but we see the next slide on the side. It's the presentation mode, so it's the speaker mode. So it's
okay.
It's a bit smaller.
Apologies for that. I'm struggling with
don't worry. Try to share the entire desktop. Perhaps it's better. So when you...
Is this better maybe?
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Okay. Apologies for that. What I was saying, most probably at some point, Charax suffered from changes in its position between the Tigris and the Euleios, and the loss of the navigable access to the sea. And I will get back to that later. Then, after that, for more than a millennium, the ruins of Charax became subject to repeated inundations by the floodwaters from the marshes, and slowly disappeared under the layer of silt. Then, that was until the rediscovery of the site by John Hansman when he was exploring the area doing his PhD research in the 1960s, and he identified the site as the former Alexandria on the Tigris. However, the site was never really investigated until recently, maybe because its proximity to the border, and during the 1980s it was right in the middle of the front line during the Iran-Iraq war. So then since 2016, the Charax Spasinou Project team started field campaigns on the site. This project is a collaboration between the universities of Manchester, Konstanz, and the Iraqi State Board of Antiquities. And it involves mainly surface exploration, geophysical survey, and the digging of evaluation trenches. But for more information, I invite you to visit the project's website. Aim of this study is to reconstruct the evolution of the landscape and paleo-environment around the ancient city, to give it a wider context in the landscape. Some of the initial research questions I've listed here below. For example, the first one, when did the early Holocene transgression reach this area, and when did the estuarine marine conditions end? As already mentioned in several presentations before in this workshop, there are still many uncertainties about the extent and timing of the early Holocene transgression. And considering its location in a transition zone between the Gulf in the south and the marshes to the north, the geological records here on this location can potentially provide some key evidence in this topic. Then another issue is about the former river courses located in the area and when they were active. Well, in fact, roughly we already know where the main rivers are located. But yeah, we'd like to collect some independent data on the chronology of the different stages of their development. And then another research question would be to, yeah, how did the agricultural hinterland look like that was necessary to supply a huge population of such a large city in antiquity? And this was also mentioned in several presentations of this workshop, that the layout of irrigation works and field patterns can really tell us a lot about how the societies, the past societies were organized in the past. And therefore it's also relevant to map and characterize any records of the agriculture that we find in the hinterland. Methodologically, this work can be split in three main tasks. The first task involves the analysis of remote sensing data and basically includes the mapping of geomorphological and archaeological landscape elements. And this will actually be the main part of this talk. A second task would be the field surveying, including hand-operated geological coring. I was lucky to have joined the field team back in 2018, but at the time I was expecting to be able to go back very soon. So yeah, the samples and the data that are collected are still very limited and preliminary. So I will not extend too much on those. Then the final task would be the integration of all data in a palaeo-geographical model of the landscape evolution around Charax. And here the potentially dated samples and archaeological evidence should provide the chronological time frame to the reconstruction. The first part is about remote sensing data, and as I said, the main topic of this talk. I will just give a very short overview of the different data sets that we're using. I will just go straight to the next slide because there you can see some nice images. You're probably all familiar with the declassified corona images, as these provide a wealth of information of the Iraqi landscape. Just before the large-scale irrigation projects changed the landscape dramatically. Also in the case of Charax, I should add to this that they were taken before the armed conflicts in the 1980s that heavily scarred the landscape. So these are, yeah, cannot be overstated how important these data sets are for this research. Perhaps not everyone is aware of the recent release of more imagery, hexagon panoramic imagery. through the USGS platform. These images were acquired by the next generation spy satellites and provide even better and higher resolution images of all of Iraq. So this is really a nice extra data source. In addition, we acquired some recent very high resolution world view images, just as a reference for the present day landscape. So just to zoom in to one area, to give some impression about the detail that we can see on the images. Especially stunning is the fine detail of ancient field patterns that are preserved in the hexagon image that cannot be seen on a corona image, and are also not visible on recent images anymore because they have been vanished due to modern agricultural activities. Then another data source, we use digital elevation models that reveal the topography of the plain, especially the topography related to alluvial ridges that have risen above the surrounding floodplains. You may all be familiar with the global SRTM dam that was acquired by the Schutterwede mission. However, as you notice in the left image, in very flat areas such as the southern Mesopotamian plain, its use is rather limited because it has quite a lot of noise. It gives very noised images. But recently the EU has released a true contender, I might say. It's the Copernicus Global Dam based on terrasar radar data that has been released to the public very recently. And although the ground resolution is similar, the accuracy is much better. And the subtle, as you can see, the subtle landforms show up very nicely. So these are all important data that are input to our approach, which entails the compilation of geomorphological maps. And just to, in very short, geomorphological maps present information about the form, the origin and age of landforms. And in our specific case, in the Mesopotamian plain, we emphasize the distinction of fluvial and anthropogenic landscape forms. This is an image from some recent work I've done some years ago together with my Belgian colleagues. It shows the geomorphological map of Lower Khuzestan, just further to the east across the border. And as you can see in just at the corner, is the site of Charax visible, which was really on the edge of our area of investigation at the time. So this kind of map really helped us to understand the evolution of the main river systems. In this case, the map shows the Karun megafan extending over more than 100 kilometers between Ahvaz and the Shatt al Arab in the southwest. 3 successive channel belts of the Karun are present. They are labeled K1, K2, and K3. The K2 is the one, the red one ending at Charax, and yeah, pardon me, I will be mostly referring to this channel belt as K2 because I'm so familiarized with that term. So this as you can see, this channel belt carried actually the combined flow of the Karge and the Karun rivers. And although I prefer to refer to it as a Karun Paleo-channel, since that is the larger one, this may actually explain why classical writers call this channel the Euleios or Karge. Indirect evidence for the K2 is provided by Charax, the founding and abandonment of the site, and very large intersecting canal systems that are displayed in green on this map. At the time, we also well, these arrows indicate the different channel belts that are first across the Megafen. So at the time, we also drafted a series of palaeogeographical maps of Lower Khuzestan. I've picked out 2 of them, which are relevant to the present study. They display the progradation of the current Megafen, pushing back the marine influence from the Gulf. And especially in the right figure, we postulated that when the K2 channel belt extended southwestwards, it actually cut off the Havisa marshes from the sea. Although, yeah, it's the evidence we have, it's very limited and complicated to draw firm conclusions. So it's really hoped that around Charax we will find some, geological records that will shed more light on this process or event. Now, moving on to our present area of interest, on this digital elevation model, you can clearly see 2 large alluvial ridges. One is just east of the present-day Tigris. Actually, I was just wondering if this was Jafar was at the end of his presentation. This was the Tigris channel belt they were referring to in the discussion, but we can talk about it later. And on the east, we see the K2 channel belt. Both clearly join Charax, which I've indicated in red. And so this constellation seems to agree very well with the situation in Hellenistic times, as we know from the sources. Now, zooming into the area around Charax, this is just still a preliminary geomorphological map, but it clearly shows the K2 paleo channel with the white curve towards Charax. I don't know if you can see my cursors here, are the ramparts of Charax in purplish. They're one of the most distinct landscape features visible. Plus, you can see all patterns of irrigation canals, different types of field systems that have been annotated in different colors. Again, this is still ongoing work, so not any definite conclusions drawn from it yet, but you can clearly see the different patterns, is my message here. And also we find a lot of very small archaeological sites that are associated with these canal structures. So now in the next slides, I will zoom in some of these areas just to see the typical features that we can recognize on the images. For example, here we have some irrigation canals that that took their water directly from the K2 channel, and in the more zoomed in image, you can faintly see even the very detailed field patterns on both sides of these canals. Also, we find a lot of potential small archaeological sites along these canals. This is another example of very fine field patterns to the east of the city. And these are also connected to the same irrigation canals and through the same irrigation canals to the K2 channel. Interestingly, this area also showed up in the regional archaeological survey that was carried out around Charax, and in fact, some Parthian material was found at the surface, and this actually demonstrates these field systems were probably contemporary with the main city. Also, in the upper photo, unfortunately, you can see the devastating effects on the archaeological heritage if they are not recorded and protected properly. Then this is another irrigation field system to the north of Charax in what is now at present time the Havisa marshes. This is a huge field system connected to extensive canals that are parallel to the K2 channel belt. And that just makes me wonder if this could be an attempt to restore the water supplies after the K2 channel was abandoned. Then these are some very intriguing features that are found to the west and south of Charax, and in fact all the way in the plains that can be found all the way down to Walstra and the Châtelet Delta. These ridges are even nowadays, some of them are clearly visible even in the field. But yeah, the topography is very shallow. But in this, for example, in this digital elevation model that was created from drone images, you can clearly see that they're showing up. So their origin is still part of debate, subject to debate. It has been suggested by previous authors that the ridges originated due to the process where the salty topsoil was removed from the area, scraped off, and this seemed very fitting to historical sources that mention Zanji slaves in the region in the 9th century. However, interestingly, the regional survey around the Charax actually found some various surface scatters from earlier dates, and these would actually indicate that they might be, in fact, be older and contemporary with the occupation of Charax. So yeah, this needs some further investigation. Is this conflicting evidence, or might it just be signs of the same procedures but at different times? So the second part is the field work. I will only very briefly mention it. It encompasses different aspects. First of all, ground truthing of the geomorphological and archaeological elements that were identified on the satellite imagery. Secondly, the geological coring and facies description of the sediments. We'd like to collect some samples for sedimentological and mineralogical analysis to determine the origins and the processes that were responsible for the deposition. And of course, we need material for dating. So as I mentioned, a very brief field campaign was done in 2018. In total, 18 cores were carried out up to 14-meter depth. As expected, we found a few meters of free-field deposits overlying what we think are tidal deposits, as expected, I would say. Unfortunately, we didn't reach the bottom of the Holocene succession. I guess there must be much deeper here, but yeah, I was hoping for it. We didn't actually found really organic material for dating except shells. Now, I was a bit hesitant in using shells for carbon dating because of the reservoir effects. But I think there are some experts here in the audience that have experience with this, and yeah, I would welcome any advice on this. So please feel free to comment on that. Yeah, so to conclude, a tentative framework for reconstructing the landscape evolution has been presented, including the geomorphological and archaeological elements, and but still largely based on just the interpretation of satellite data. yeah, really need more field data. So to be continued. Hopefully we can soon go back out there in the field, I would say. Then to finish off, of course, I would like to thank the sponsors of this project, and especially all my colleagues in the Charax team and at my institute. Thank you very much.